Happy spring, everyone! Today I'll be sharing with you an elegant spring summer dress that is versatile and easily adjustable. And if you're new to my channel and want in on all the latest patterns, then go ahead and click that subscribe button. For this project, we would need any category 3 yarn. I'm using Hobby Rainbow 8x8 yarn in the color natural white and light tan. You would also need a 5.5mm hook, a measuring tape, a stitch marker, and a tapestry needle to weave in the ends. With your 5.5mm hook, we'll first start from the top portion of the dress. In order to get the perfect measurement, you will need to measure the width of your bra strap from side to side and multiply that into 3. Then you'll add 2 or 3 to get an odd number. I'm making a size medium and I'll be making 35 chains. Next, we'll chain 1 to start the next row. Insert your hook through the second chain from the hook and work a single crochet. We'll work single crochet stitches on each chain all the way across. Once you've completed all your single crochets, it should look something like this. Chain 1 to turn your work. On the next row, we'll be working half double crochet stitches. So through that first stitch, go ahead and yarn over, insert your hook, drop a loop, yarn over, and pull through all loops. Continue to half double crochet each stitch all the way across. On the last stitch, chain 1 and turn your work. On this row, we'll be working increases. So on that first stitch, work 2 half double crochets on that stitch, 1 half double crochet, and the second half double crochet in the same stitch. We'll be working half double crochet stitches all the way until the middle of the row. You can go ahead and place a stitch marker there if you like. And we'll continue to work 1 half double crochet stitches all the way until we reach the stitch marker or the middle of the row. Once you've reached the middle of the row, for me it will be the 18th stitch, we'll be working 5 half double crochet stitches or the shell stitch to create that curve in the middle. Then we'll go ahead and work 1 half double crochet on the following stitch all the way until we reach the end of the row. On that last stitch, we'll do the same thing as we did on the first stitch by working 2 half double crochet to increase. Chain 1 and turn your work. And if you lay it flat, your row will begin to curve slightly in the middle. On the next row, we'll be working single crochet stitches. This will be the beginning of our Alpine stitches, single crochet followed by front post double crochet stitches. So go ahead and work single crochet stitches all the way until the end of this row. Once you've reached the end, just chain 1 and turn your work. On this row, we'll be working front post double crochet and half double crochet stitches. So because we'll be increasing this row, work 2 half double crochet stitches on that first stitch. On the next stitch, go ahead and find that second post, 1, 2, this is the second post. Insert your hook behind and through the next post, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2. So that will be a front post double crochet. So you see, this is the second stitch that we worked. Now we'll be working on the third stitch by working a regular half double crochet stitch. So now we'll just be repeating the front post double crochet stitch and the half double crochet stitch, and I'll meet you back here once we've reached the shell stitch. Once you've reached that last stitch just before the shell stitch, the first shell stitch should be a half double crochet stitch, which I've already completed here. Now on the second shell stitch right here, I'll be working a front post double crochet stitch. So go ahead and insert your hook and work a front post double crochet stitch. On the next stitch, which is the third shell stitch, you'll be working 3 half double crochet stitches in that same stitch. And then on the following stitch, we'll just be repeating the front post double crochet stitch followed by the half double crochet stitch all the way until the end of this row. Once you're at the end of the row and you have 2 stitches remaining, the second last stitch should be a front post double crochet stitch, and the last stitch should be an increase of 2 half double crochet stitches. Chain 1, and before we start the next row, if you lay your work flat like this, you should notice a curve beginning to form. Now in the next row, we'll basically be repeating the last 2 rows that we did. So we'll work single crochet stitches all the way across, and I'll meet you back here once we're done. I'm on my last stitch, so I'll chain 1 to start the next row. So on the next row, just like what we did on the previous row, we'll be working 2 increases on the first stitch, work all the way down, and once we've reached the middle stitch, we'll work 3 half double crochet increases and then work our way back up and then work another 2 half double crochet increase, and followed by another row of single crochet stitches. I'll be repeating these 2 rows for a total of 3 sets, which will give me a dramatic increase and a total width of 18 inches or 45 centimeters. Now let's go ahead and work on the second row together once more. We'll work 2 half double crochet on that first stitch. On the next stitch, we'll look for that second stitch at the bottom and work a front post double crochet stitch, like so. We'll find a third stitch and work a half double crochet and front post double crochet on the next. Once we've reached our 3 half double crochet increase stitches, our last stitch is a half double crochet stitch. Work your front post double crochet stitch on that first group stitch. Next, we'll work 3 half double crochet stitches on that second group stitch. And on the third stitch, we'll work a front post double crochet stitch. And then from here, we'll repeat the half double crochet and front post double crochet all the way across until the end of this row. And once you've reached the last 2 stitches, we'll work a front post double crochet, followed by 2 half double crochet stitches to increase. Now go ahead and work the last 2 rows until you've reached the total width of your chest, but less 1 inch or 2.5 centimeters. So I've just completed 5 sets of Alpine stitch rows, which gives me a total of 18 inches or 45 centimeters. And now we'll be working on switching yarn colors while maintaining the same number of stitches for the next few rows. Here I have my white yarn, and on my last stitch, before closing up that stitch, I'll pull through the new yarn color through all loops to close that stitch. Chain 1 to turn and start your new row. It's always best to start your new row color on a single crochet row. So go ahead and pick up those loose yarn tail and work 1 single crochet through that first stitch while working around the excess tail. Continue to single crochet each stitch all the way across while hiding the tail in between your stitches. On your last stitch, chain 1 and turn your work. Now in this row, since we've already achieved the width of our bust or our chest, we will no longer be increasing, but we'll be maintaining the same number of stitches for this row. So now instead of working 2 half double crochets like we did earlier, we'll be working half double crochet 2 together, which is a decrease on the first and second stitch. And because our third stitch is a post stitch, we'll just work a regular half double crochet stitch. And then from here, we'll continue our front post double crochet stitch and half double crochet stitch all the way across until we've reached the 3 half double crochet stitch in the center, and I'll meet you back here once we're there. Once we've reached the center of the row, this is our post stitch, and the next stitch should be a front post double crochet stitch, and you know the stitch already. Go ahead and repeat the same process as you did on the previous rows, and I'll meet you back here at the end of this row. Once you're on your last third stitch, it should be a half double crochet, and the last 2 stitch should be a decrease of 2 half double crochet stitches together. So because of the increase here in the middle and the decreases on the side, this would automatically offset any increase or decrease on this row. Chain 1, turn your work and work single crochet stitches on this row. Repeat the last 2 rows until you've reached 3 sets or as many sets as you prefer, and I'll meet you back here once we're done. Now because this pattern is made to fit, you can choose to either continue maintaining the same number of stitches until your waist and then increase from there, or you can choose to make a straight cut dress while maintaining the same number of stitches. Or alternatively, you could also make an A-line dress by gradually increasing each row until you've reached your preferred length. Now I'll show you how to change colors one more time on the next row. So before closing up that stitch, I'll pick up my other yarn color, pull it through all loops to close that last stitch, chain 1 to secure. Now we'll turn our work, and because we always start off on a single crochet row, we'll pick up all the excess yarn and single crochet around it. This is also a really great way to reduce the number of weaving in ends for our work. So because this pattern is repetitive, go ahead and continue working the single crochet stitch all across this row, and then we'll work on the Alpine stitch on the following row. I've just completed another 5 more sets of the tan colored yarn, and now I'll start a gradual increase around the hips. Unlike the drastic increase we did earlier on the top rows, we will not be working the 2 stitches increase on the first stitch. For the next row, we'll be switching yarn colors again. So on my last stitch, I'll pick up my white yarn, pull it through all loops to close that last stitch, and chain 1 to turn. On this row, I'll pick up the excess yarn and work single crochet stitches on each stitch all the way across, and I'll meet you back here once we're done with that. For our next row, I'll be working on a gradual increase. Unlike the top row here, where I'll call it a dramatic increase with the 2 half double crochet stitches that we did on each side, we will only be working 1 single stitch on each stitch all the way until the center shell stitch. So let's turn our work and insert our hook. Now for the next row, we'll start by working 1 half double crochet. It should be on top of the half double crochet 2 together stitch that we did on the previous row. Now on the next stitch, it looks like it is a regular half double crochet. So because it is a regular half double crochet, we can go ahead and go straight into a front post double crochet and work alternate stitches of half double crochet and front post double crochet all the way until the center of the row, and work your half double crochet shell stitch, and then continue working your way back up until the end of the row, and I'll meet you back here once we're at the last stitch. On that last stitch, just work 1 regular half double crochet. And because we did an increase here in the center, this will automatically increase the sides gradually. I will continue to increase until it reaches the width of my hips, and then I'll stop increasing and maintain the same number of stitches until I've reached the length of my dress. Now on the next row, referring back to the previous row, we'll always work our first stitch with a half double crochet stitch. And because our second stitch is a front post double crochet stitch, we'll also work another half double crochet stitch on the second stitch. You'll always be able to determine what stitch you'll make next by referring to the bottom stitch of the previous row. So just remember to apply this concept to every alpine row, whether you're increasing or decreasing. Now let's look at the last stitch again. My second last stitch is a front post double crochet, which means I'll work a half double crochet. And my last stitch will always just be 1 half double crochet. So this is my finished gradual increase rows, and my next row would be to maintain the same number of stitches for the remaining rows. I've just completed my single crochet row with a new yarn, and if you've forgotten how to maintain the same number of rows, we'll do that together once more. We'll work a half double crochet 2 stitches together on the first and second stitch, and then on the next stitch, depending what stitch it was on the previous row at the bottom, you'll want to work the opposite stitch of what it was. Here it was a front post double crochet stitch, so I went ahead and worked another half double crochet stitch on that next stitch of mine. Continue working your alternate stitch of half double crochet stitch and front post double crochet stitch until you've reached your desired length. So I've just completed my first body panel piece. If you notice, there's a slight increase here where the hips start, and I maintain the same number of stitches from the bottom of the hips all the way down to the bottom of the dress. The total length of this dress is approximately 30.5 inches or about 77 centimeters. And once you've reached the last row, just go ahead and work 2 rows of single crochet stitches and bind off. Now that you already know how to increase and maintain same number of stitches, go ahead and make a second piece using the exact same stitches and exact same number of rows as you did on the first piece. So I've just completed my duplicate copy, one in front and one in the back, And now we will be seaming the sides. So turn your work wrong side out like this and place them on top of each other. Once they're aligned, turn to the side and we'll be stitching the side from the bottom up or bottom down, whichever you prefer, by working single crochet stitches. And make sure once you're stitching all the way up, you'll stop at this corner here. This is where the underarm would meet. Now I'll be using the same hook as I did earlier, my 5.5mm hook, and you can choose whatever yarn color you prefer. For me, I'll be choosing the tan color. Insert your hook through that last stitch on both pieces, drop a loop, chain 1 to secure. Now bring the tail up and work single crochet stitches on each row on both panels across. And because we have two colors, it makes it easier for us to align both panels together. Once you've reached at the bottom of the underarm, just chain 1 to secure and bind off. And this is how your seam side should look like. Now go ahead and seam the other side. Once you've completed seaming both sides, turn your work right side out, and this is how your almost finished dress should look like. All we need to do is just add straps. Now take a measuring tape and measure the length of strap that you would want for yourself. For me, I'm making a strap that is about 8 inches long or 20 centimeters in length. You'll take your yarn and put it across the measuring tape and triple the length of that yarn, like so. I'm going to open up the yarn, hold on to the tip and create a loop, and I'll go ahead and insert my hook to the top of the body piece where the strap would be and drop that loop. From here we'll be working an I-cord or a simple foundation chain, which you can use for many purposes. So you have your triple length yarn in front. Hold on to it and wrap it from the front to the back of your hook. Drop a loop and pull through those 2 loops. Wrap it around, yarn over and pull through 2 loops. Continue doing this until you've reached the total length of the strap that you intended for. This is how it should look like from each side. Once you've reached the length of your strap, you can take your measuring tape and pull the strap to be sure. Now, on your last stitch, we'll be attaching it to the front of the body panel. So remove your hook. Then insert your hook through the front body panel's first stitch, pull up the loop, and then work 1 more stitch. Wrap it round, yarn over, and pull through 2. Chain 1 to secure and bind off. And there you have your finished strap. Now go ahead and make the second strap. Once you've completed your strap, go ahead and bind off and weave in all loose ends. And that's it. You've completed your spring-summer cafe latte dress using Alpine stitches. I appreciate you watching and making this pattern. And if you like this tutorial, do give me a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so yet. I can't wait to see you in my next video. Bye!